In today's junk journal with me, I'm going to be creating a travel inspired page for Junk Journal January. Hey, it's Meg, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be working on prompt of travel, which is day 30 of the challenge. And I wasn't really sure where I wanted to start with this one because you can go in so many different directions. I mean, obviously there's travel journaling, which I'm not traveling at the moment, so I couldn't really do that one. And when I'm feeling stumped and kind of not sure what to do for a page, something I often do is pull out like previous journals, old sketchbooks, or places where I've been working. And even if it's like this book here, so it's kind of I wouldn't call it an art journal, but I wouldn't call it a sketchbook. It's kind of a place where I've just tested materials and played around with ideas, and nothing is finished and nothing is a work of art at all. It's all scribbles and sketches and a big mess, quite honestly, but it's a place where I've got some ideas at least, or like parts of an idea, like something has started. And a lot of the times I pull that book out in particular just for like color inspiration, and so I decided to use the page there where I've got the foliage drawn and then I've coloured around the outline. I really like the look of that, especially on the brown envelope that I had glued in there. And while that's not travel related at all, I just wanted something to get me started. And I have this printout here that is an airmail envelope, so I thought that would be fitting for the prompt of travel. And so then I just thought maybe I will use things that are travel inspired or like travel adjacent. So you'll see later on I got out my vintage stamps, and so I thought, well, that's kind of travel because you've got stamps from different countries and sending things through the post. So it became much more of an airmail related page, but that still stemmed from the travel prompt. So that was kind of my take on the prompt. And the pink here was quite strong, so I decided to add a layer of this is crumpled up vellum on top of the paper, and that subdued it a little bit. And I also really like the texture that it gave. You can't really tell on camera, but there's all sort of wrinkles and bits of texture going on there. And now I've just got a piece of an old brown envelope that I wanted to add on, like I said, is the basis for the page in the right there that I'm taking some inspiration from. And so I just tore off a little section that I could include on this page. And I think because the left hand side page is brown paper as well, it kind of complements it nicely, that it's not completely two separate pages. It feels like it's bringing it together a little bit, but without them being the same page necessarily. And doodling this little leaf pattern here was really fun. I didn't have to be too precise with it. It didn't have to look like realistic or anything. I was just having fun with adding the different shapes, and the reddish tone of the pencil I used, I think, really complemented the page. It kind of spoke to so where you've got the red and the blue there of like the airmail envelope, so that was the red that I pulled out. And then, like I said, when I come in with the stamps, you'll notice that I also tried to pick stamps that matched that colour scheme as well. So that was another way that the travel prompt had kind of morphed into a way of inspiring the way that I was working on this page and the creative decisions I was making, I guess, the things that I was deciding to include for this page. And although on the right hand side, the page there, I think I used some acrylic paint to have that like pinkish purplish bold effect. I didn't really want to add paint to this page. It just didn't feel like it would be the right fit. Sometimes paint, I think, does go with this like mixed media look and my collage, and then other times I just have a feeling when I know that if I add it, it's just gonna clash and not feel part of the page. Like I think when I have to add paints and watercolor or coffee, I like it to feel like it's part of something, it's blended in. And sometimes when I do it, I just know that it feels like forced, and so I decided to instead use a white pencil, and this one is the Faber-Castell Polychromos. It's just the white, and I really like the subtle effect of this, so I still got that impression of blocking something in and the brown being pushed back, but it was a lot more subtle, and it was quite therapeutic to do as well, just to colour outside of the lines. And in some areas you can see I was pushing a little bit harder on the paper to have a more, it wasn't really an opaque white, and I don't want, maybe a darker shade of the white, just a little bit more, so there was some difference, but it was mostly a bit of a scribbly effect, and it didn't really work too well on the vellum, so I stopped trying with that one. I don't know why I thought that it would work on top of that. And then I added just some marks with my Tombow brush marker there, just to add a bit of contrast, because I felt like it was feeling a little bit flat. And then here are the stamps. So you can see here I'm just sorting the different ones, and I wanted to not only have a variety of the size of stamps I was using, so you can see this one here is like a larger stamp, and then there's some smaller ones as well. I also wanted to make sure that I was keeping to that colour scheme that I was building on the page, so the red and the blue, with the stamps that I was choosing. And when I glued them down, I wasn't too bothered about them being like the right side up. Sometimes it was nice to have them, you know, like long ways or even upside down. I wasn't too fussed on that. It was more of a decorative element, and it was quite nice to add them as a cluster on the page, so that they were able to form a bit more of like a collage element and something of a feature for the page, rather than feeling scattered around it. So you can see there I concentrated them on the lower right hand side of the page, where I had more of a gap, because I didn't want to cover up the foliage that or the leaves that I had drawn on the top of the page. I wanted it to sort of balance out a little bit with where I was adding the So that is pretty much everything that I created for this prompt. It's quite a lot going on spread, shall we say, but I actually really enjoyed the process and I love the way that the stamps turned out. So thank you as always for joining me for this journal with me. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you guys in the next one for the final prompt of the challenge.